I stayed broke for years after I got sober, and I thought it was because of my past. Like, the addiction had just wrecked my finances, and I just needed time to catch up, but that wasn't it. See, the truth is, I was still thinking like an addict, just without the substances, and it was keeping me poor and feeling like I deserved to be there. And so in this video, I want to walk through the 3 reasons I stayed stuck financially and what it takes to actually start building something real. See, here's the thing that nobody told me when I got sober, and it took years before I could even see it. I thought the problem was the drug. Get rid of the drug, get rid of the problem. But the drug was never really the problem. The drug was just the solution I kept reaching for. See, the real problem? I never learned how to sit with discomfort and wait. Feel something bad? Fix it now. Feel bored? Fix it now. Feel anxious, lonely, behind, overwhelmed, good, whatever it was, fix it now. That's the only software my brain knew how to run. And when I got sober, nobody told me that quitting the substance doesn't install the program. And so now I'm clean, and yet I'm still blowing money that I don't have. I'm still avoiding the bills because opening them feels like walking into a fight I'm going to lose. I'm still jumping at the quick cash and walking away from anything that asks me to be patient. Different behavior, same wiring. I remember early in my recovery, I couldn't make rent. Not because I wasn't working, but because every time I had money in my hand, it was already gone before the first of the month. I literally had to call my parents and ask them to cover it. It was humiliating, and that was just a humbling moment because I was sober. I was doing the right things, but financially, I was still living like an addict. I was spending whatever I had on whatever felt good right now, and hoping the future would just sort itself out. It wasn't actually until my wife came into the picture that something really started to shift. She'd grown up in a family that saved, that planned, and that said no to the small things so that they could say yes to the bigger things later. And watching her do that, treat money like something that you steward, not just consume, really challenged me and rewired something inside. She didn't lecture me, right? She just lived differently, and I had to decide if I was going to learn or keep being bailed out. Here's what I couldn't see back then. That wasn't just a money problem. That was a brain problem. See, the part of my brain that's responsible for planning, consequences, long-term thinking, that was still running at half capacity, and neuroscience backs this up. Men coming out of chronic addiction show measurably reduced activity in that part of the brain for months, sometimes years into recovery. Think about the prodigal son. He had the same problem, right? He took his inheritance, patient wealth, future provision, and said, no, I want to experience it right now. And when he finally came to his senses, the father didn't shame him. He ran toward him and welcomed him home. See, that detail always gets me. And here's the lesson. We have to learn how to save, not just survive. Not just don't spend it on drugs, but actually build something. Have a number in a savings account that grows instead of disappears. Because every time we delay gratification, every time we say not yet instead of right now, we're literally rewiring the brain. We're carving a new groove. The fix wasn't more willpower, it was structure. It was a written plan. It was a budget. It was someone who knew what I was doing with my money. And honestly, it was my wife sitting across the table saying, no, we're not spending that. See, we're not broken. We're just learning. And the same discipline that keeps us sober one day at a time, well, that's the same discipline that's going to build real financial freedom one decision at a time. But even when I started getting the spending under control, there was something else running underneath all of it, something I really didn't even have a name for. See, here's what actually keeps most men broke in recovery. Not the debt, not the income, not the economy, shame. There's a specific kind of financial shame that follows us out of addiction. See, it's the money that we burned on using, the people that we borrowed from and never paid back, the jobs we lost, who we robbed from, the opportunities we torched. And when we open the bank app or the credit card statement or the collection notice, it doesn't just feel bad. It feels like an indictment, like proof that we are exactly who we were afraid of becoming. And so we close it, we ignore it, we don't look at it, we pretend like it doesn't exist, not because we're lazy, but because looking at the numbers is like looking in a mirror and facing all of the things that we don't want to believe to be true. And I carried this belief for years that I just didn't deserve to have money. Like my past was this constant anchor pulling me down, whispering, hey, just be grateful you have anything. Men like you don't get to build real wealth, and so I didn't even try. I'd get a little ahead and then I'd find a way to spend it. Not on drugs, but on anything that kept me from having to sit still with savings that I didn't feel worthy of keeping. And I told myself, that was just how it is for guys like me. And that kept me broke for years after getting sober. See, here's what I didn't understand back then. See, that voice, it wasn't wisdom. That was shame talking into my ear, and shame doesn't motivate change. See, guilt says I did something wrong, I can fix it, but shame says I am something wrong, so why even bother? There's actually science behind this, right? The brain's threat detection system cannot tell the difference between a bear in the woods and a credit card statement that reminds us of our worst years. The stress response is exactly the same, and the avoidance is a survival instinct. We're not undisciplined, we're actually being activated. But Romans 8:1 says, there is therefore now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. See, that's not just a verse for Sunday morning, that is the direct answer to the exact lie that keeps us from ever sitting down and dealing with our finances. Condemnation paralyzes, but freedom mobilizes. And step 4, right, that fearless and moral inventory isn't just a spiritual exercise. It might be one of the most financially sound things that we can ever do, because writing down what we owe financially, relationally, morally, and dragging it out into the light removes shame's power over us. See, what lives in the dark actually controls us, and what we name, we can face. The work isn't getting our finances right first. The work is getting our shame right first. And when we can finally separate what we did from who we are, new creation, not a write-off, we become men who can sit down, open the bank account, look at the number and say, okay, here's where we start. Got to start somewhere. Not because it feels good, because shame isn't the boss anymore. If you're not sure where that starting point is for you, like what your next step even looks like, I put together something. It's small. It's called the Purpose Blueprint. It's free. It'll help you get clear on where you are, where God's taking you, and what to actually do next. The link's in the description. Grab it whenever you're ready. And so now, once shame started losing its grip on me, I ran into a different problem. One I wasn't expecting, and honestly, one I'm not sure the church talks about enough. There's a version of faith I see a lot in recovery spaces. It goes like this. God's got me. He'll provide. I just need to stay sober and trust him. And look, that's true. I actually believe that, but it's also incomplete. And when it's incomplete, it becomes something really dangerous. It becomes avoidance dressed up in spiritual language. See, a lot of us are waiting to be rescued financially, waiting for the right opportunity to land, the business idea to take off, the situation to finally shift. And sometimes that's genuine faith, but sometimes, if we're being honest, it's just the same passivity we've always had, wearing church language as a costume. And I did this for years. I'd pray about my finances. I'd believe God for provision. I'd quote Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, and use it like a reason to not make a plan myself. Like, if I just stayed sober and kept showing up to church, the money stuff would just eventually somehow sort itself out on its own. Meanwhile, nothing moved because I wasn't moving. I wasn't making the calls I needed to make. I wasn't having the conversations I kept putting off. I wasn't building anything. I was just hoping that something would fall into my lap. See, that's not faith. That's avoidance with a Bible verse on top. And here's what I've had to sit with. Work is not a curse. Adam was placed in the garden and given work to do before sin ever entered the picture, before the fall, before anything even went wrong. Work is actually part of how God made us, especially as men. Creativity, building, stewarding something, contributing to something bigger than ourselves. Proverbs 14:23 says, all hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. That's not a motivational quote, right? That is a spiritual principle. And Jeremiah 29:11, right, the verse we love, has 2 verses after that we almost never quote. You will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. The plan requires our participation, seeking, moving, asking, acting. See, God does not just do the work for us. God doesn't do for us what he designed us to do with him. So here's where the rubber meets the road. Faith and financial recovery look exactly the same at the practical level. One clear next step taken today with someone else who knows about it. Not a 5-year plan, not a vision board, just one step. What is the one financial thing that you've been avoiding, right? One call, one application, one credit card company you need to call, one debt that you need to get out of, that if you focused on it this week would break something loose. That is where it starts. Not with the big vision, not with the I'm going to be a millionaire someday, just one thing, because God can work with a man who's moving. It's a lot harder for him to steer a man who's standing still and just calling it faith. The reason men in recovery stay broke isn't a lack of intelligence or lack of faith or even lack of opportunity. It's that nobody told us the addiction took our brain's reward system, our relationship with shame, and our theology of work all at the same time. And nobody told us that those things heal in that order. The brain rewires, the shame loses its grip, the work becomes possible. And I've lived that. I've watched other men live it too. If you want to know where it actually starts, day one, what you do when you wake up, watch this video right here. See, because that's where the rewiring truly begins.